Thank
So I
you.
was wondering if we could brainstorm. So we know that Reza Pahlavi is in Texas right now. He's going to speak at CPAC either tomorrow or the day after. And we know that Trump plans to go to China in mid May. And he said that I don't want to go because he postponed his April 1st meeting in China because he said, I have to be here for the war. So if he's planning to go to China in mid May, something's telling me that we're going to achieve some sort of state where he can leave, or he's achieved some sort of leverage with all of this. They can go to China and tell Xi Jinping, like, hey, this is what I want. You're going to have to do it. I'm wondering if we could brainstorm about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really hard to think about what they're going to say in China, but I mean, President Trump has done a very, very, very good job in being unpredictable. Okay. And that has served him very well in these military operations because it has confused the fuck out of the Islamic Republic, and they don't know what the next move is going to be. So when it comes to China, I mean, right now, United States is in a very good position when it comes to oil prices going up. A lot of people are talking about the cost to United States for oil prices going up, but this is this is going to have a much bigger impact on China than it does on United States. United States is an oil exporter, and China is oil importer, and China, and also their oil, a lot of it comes through the Strait of Hormuz. So I don't really know exactly what President Trump is going to be telling the Chinese, but I do know that China, like they have a lot of leverage over them, and China is desperate for the Strait of Hormuz to be stabilized. I mean, a lot of people might say like, well, they're getting their oil because the Islamic Republic is letting the ships that are selling oil to the Chinese to go get through them. But that's only looking at it narrowly and temporarily. Any form of chaos around the Hormuz Strait is really, really causes the Chinese a lot of anxiety, especially now that we're talking about potentially the Americans wanting to go and take over Hark Island and maybe some other areas around in south of Iran. That will basically be them trying to completely pause the regime being able to sell their oil and gas, because if they are only selling to the Chinese and mostly to Chinese and the rest of the ships can't go through, then the Americans were like, "Well, we're not going to let you sell that, like by taking those islands." And then China cannot tolerate this. Is going to be really, really difficult for China to accept. So, I think when President Trump meet with the Chinese, he's going to have a lot more leverage over them that China has leverage over President Trump. So I don't know, like, what would you ask of the Chinese? What do you think, Ali, yourself? What are your thoughts on this? Because given the leverage they have, President Trump has over
Yeah.
this because of
So
this.
the original meeting was supposed to be 5 days from now. Obviously, the conflict wasn't going to end by then, and by end,
Right.
in Trump's eyes, I was going to mean that Trump needs something definitive with evidence to go to the Chinese and say, these are my terms, you have to accept them, such as Venezuela and
What?
Iran, which is most of your
Mm,
oil and gas that you guys get from, is now under my control. If I take Harg Island by May, I can just simply put all of these Chinese ships on like the back order. You guys can just, wait. All the other ships can go through. We don't know if we can let you guys through or something like that. And the whole entire Chinese strategy of, hey, let's control all these rare earths to take advantage of the AI revolution that's coming up is just going to be ineffective if they don't have the energy to make use of it. I don't know exactly what terms he's going to provide them, but I know it's going to be something where he's approaching from a position of absolute strength. But my main point was if it's going to be mid May that he's going to China, he must be accounting for him to have reached that leverage by then.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm also thinking about how this window I was talking about before, this window is getting shorter and shorter. And we're reaching a good point, and I think we're almost there, but anything after that becomes a little bit more unpredictable because of the nature of these Islamist retards in the regime. So we don't know what they're going to do if they're pushed to an absolute breaking point. Right now, they're rapidly approaching that, and I think that Trump will probably explore all avenues, and then his last one will be just calling the people out to the streets, even if it means more of us Iranians dying for him to achieve that. I'm just thinking from a point of the United States president. I hope it's his last option, and it probably is from the look of everything he's said and done so far. But I imagine that's going to happen before May.
Yeah, you're right. You're right actually, because of the May meeting, President Trump would be in in a hurry to try to make sure that they have maximum control before his meeting with the Chinese. I do think that China is not very much in a position to be able to stop or have much influence over what the Americans are doing right now. And if all of this goes through with plan, like you have Venezuela is on your side and now Iran is on your side as well, it might deter the Chinese people, the Chinese government, the CCP, from being as aggressive as it has been. I'm not saying it will, but it might help. Just basically chilling down, like becoming a little bit more normal, given that they will lose a lot of their leverage. Energy is going to be very, very, very key going forward. So, I mean, I don't know what. Honestly, I'm not saying the CCP would do this, but if I was the CCP, seeing how things are going, I would just be like, you know what, fuck it, let's just change strategy and just lean into this. And like, I'm not, they will not do this, but if I was them, I mean, never say never, but if I was them, I would be like, you know what, I'm gonna send some, symbolically, some ships to show some good faith cooperations with the Americans to help them with the Strait of Hormuz. That would be such a, President Trump would love that. Like, even Europe is not with me, but China is with me. Like, it would be so impressive, and it would buy a lot of good faith from the Americans, and it might even be the beginning. And if they get rewarded enough for it, it might open like a whole new way of, it might even cancel the Cold War that is about to come. Right? I'm not saying this will happen, but I'm just saying, wouldn't that be beautiful if, like, the CCP, like, what, we're not going to win this. Let's just cooperate instead of fighting against. It would be such a beautiful symbolic move if they were like, well, we need the Strait of Hormuz, so let's just send a couple of ships to help the Americans get this over with.
I think best case scenario, China does nothing because he almost got his head put on a spike like a month or two ago. I don't think he can send these ships because it might show weakness to his own people. I think they're set on this path. I think they're kind of stuck on it actually.
Yeah, yeah. I know. That's what I'm saying. I was just like
Yeah.
dreaming. I'm not saying this is going to happen. Yeah,
And on another note, real quick, Russia's oil that got unsanctioned and was allowed to sell for 60 days is now a non
yeah.
factor. They won't even get that money, that little amount of money that they could have set up, because Ukraine didn't like the idea. So they actually pretty much completely destroyed two of the biggest Russian oil ports, and they're closed indefinitely.
Yeah, but the oil that they sold is not going to get evaporated. Eventually, they're going to get that money just because the port is not there. I mean, they make the sale, right?
I think so. I
So
think a lot of that oil,
not having a port is temporary. Eventually, you will be able to put it back on again.
well, all that oil was sitting in the port. It's currently burning in the open.
Like, usually when you have an attack like this, it's not like the whole thing will evaporate into the
Correct.
air. Like, yeah, okay.